longtime coach in Coach Dirk Koetter. Coach, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. How you been?
I've been fantastic. That's a great looking sweatshirt you got on there.
Yeah, well, we were talking about Ashton Jeanty back in the summer, and when like a national guy talks about Boise, you become basically like a fan favorite there. And one of our longtime partners, KTIK, those fans were loving me, and they sent me some Ashton Jeanty gear. So I made a big push for Ashton Jeanty all throughout the season. And man, Coach, when you look back at the year that he had, I know you guys had high expectations, but it was really something seeing what he was able to do on the football field week in and week out.
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, Boise State always has high expectations, but, Ashton got off to such a fast start, right out of the gate. That game he had week one at Georgia Southern when, the first couple times he touched the ball, he was off to the races and had a huge start to the season. As the season went on, teams geared up more so to stop him. But he had a fantastic year, one of the best seasons in history for a running back, and he's going to make somebody an awesome pro.
When you look back at what he was able to do, like I remember talking to Spencer Danielson before the start of the season, he said he's the best player in the country. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to see that on the field. Were there moments this year, even knowing how highly you guys thought of Ashton, where you were like, wow, I'm surprised he was able to do that, or everything that happened, you kind of thought, okay, this is what Ashton Jeanty is all about?
No, absolutely. And again, I'll go back to that first week. You just don't expect that many runs over 50 yards, over 60 yards, over 70 yards. I mean, to see Ashton grind out turn a 4-yard gain into a 10 or 12-yard gain, that's pretty much expected. You've seen that from him before. But to have that number of long plays and long touchdown plays, there was a lot of wow moments for sure.
And what a nice kid, by the way, is Dirk Koetter's here with us talking about Ashton Jeanty. When we had him on early in the season, one of these games where he broke like 6 tackles to get the ball in the end zone like he was Marshawn Lynch. Even when he talks about himself, he is humble, and he is really the ultimate consummate professional, really team player too.
Yeah, he really is. I think that run you're talking about was in the Washington State game. That play's been replayed many, many times, but whoever gets Ashton in the draft, not only are they getting a terrific player, but everybody wants that guy that's going to do big things in the community, that's going to be a great teammate and going to be a leader when called upon to lead. And Ashton is going to do all of those things.
And the other thing, too, is he played banged up this year, never complained. You guys obviously ran him a lot because that was the best method to win. This dude, it's just like, it's amazing what he was able to do, Coach. And then also to know that he wasn't fully healthy was really remarkable.
Yeah, I don't know so much about that side of it. I mean, in my opinion, that's been overplayed a little bit. I think Ashton did a great job of taking care of his body. And, I think when you look at the number of injuries just across football in general, I think it's tough for a running back to carry the ball as much as he did and stay healthy throughout an entire season. There's some luck involved there. And then there's also the fact that he takes great care of himself. But, some of that, unfortunately, in football, you got to be a little bit lucky too.
Coach Dirk Koetter here with us talking about Ashton Jeanty. Going back to Heisman Trophy night, kind of take me through how you processed that. I voted him 1. I had Travis Hunter 2. And then I put Cam Ward in at the number 3 spot. But when you look back at that whole night and what that meant for the program to have him be the runner-up, obviously it's a little bittersweet because you want him to win the whole thing. But how do you look back at the Heisman Trophy night?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome to be in the mix and be one of the guys invited to New York City. Everybody in Boise, of course, is biased and wanting Ashton to win, just like everybody in Boulder wants their guy to win. When you're in the season, we don't have the luxury. Like I didn't see those other guys play every week. So, there's a lot of really fine football players out there. And, this is somewhat of a popularity contest. And they're both deserving players. Great recognition for Boise State's program and for Ashton, and he deserved everything he got. It's hard to say. Obviously, I don't get to see everybody like you do.
So when you got back to Boise in 2022, take me back the first time you remember meeting Ashton Jeanty and what your early impressions were, Coach.
Yeah, when I first came back, it was after 4 games of the 2022 season, and Ashton was a true freshman at the time, and we also had another pretty good running back, George Halani, who's with the Seahawks now, and Ashton, you could tell that as a guy, as a young man coming out of high school, that he'd been well coached, that he knew the game of football, that he had the toughness that was going to be needed to play the position. But, at that point, he wasn't really relied on. I mean, as I said, we had George Halani, we had Taylon Green running the ball. So we had kind of a 3-headed monster running the ball. And it really wasn't like that this year. Our backup running backs at Boise State were really beat up. We lost our number 2, our number 3, and our number 4 running back. So Ashton, we didn't really have a lot behind him. And we were very thin at the backup running back. So that's another one of the reasons why we ran him so often.
When you go back to 2023, because this is the part that I think gets lost, because a lot of people just became familiar with Ashton Jeanty this past year, and you see him go for well over 2,000 yards this season, almost had 30 touchdowns, all that stuff. I go back to 2023 where you talk about, he's an unknown in 2022 and took that jump in 2023. When in 2023 did you realize, okay, we got something special here when you look back at that season?
Actually, I was not involved in the program in 2023. Unfortunately, I've had some multiple retirements.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
In 2023, I was not around it that much. But as I recall, in 2023, it worked out where Ashton was hurt part of the time and George Halani was hurt part of the time. So both of those guys got their chances to shine, and they also got their opportunities to complement each other. It was really just this year, when Ashton, it was clear right from the get-go that he was going to be the feature back. He wasn't splitting time anymore. And, when you talk about what kind of a pro he's going to be, I mean, he's only a third-year junior. He didn't redshirt, so he's only 3 years out of high school. And people forget he did split time the first 2 years. It's talked about how many carries he had this year, but I think those GMs are looking at some of these backs at how many carries they have across their whole career. And in that respect, Ashton's really still a young man, and his best football is still ahead of him.
So you look at your NFL background. Obviously, you're the head coach of the Buccaneers. You're on staff with Jacksonville, the Falcons, obviously the OC in Tampa before becoming the head coach. You have an NFL background. You obviously have a college background as well, so you know it both ways. I've seen Ashton projected as high as the 6th overall pick to the Raiders. I've also seen him projected 12th to the Cowboys. You know how the conversation is with running backs. Is it worth it to take a running back that early in the draft? If you had some NFL friends call you up and say, why should I draft Ashton Jeanty with the top 15 pick? Just what would you say to them, Coach Dirk Koetter?
Well, all those guys making those picks, they have to do what's best for their team and what's best for their organization. From what everybody's saying, it is a deep class of running backs this year. And so I think there might be a team or two that says maybe we should wait and not take a first-round running back, and maybe we could get a pretty good runner in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round. But all those GMs are looking for difference makers. And when you look at what Saquon Barkley did this year, what they did at the Ravens running the football, running backs made a lot more of an impact this season in the NFL than maybe some of the seasons past. So I think that works in Ashton's favor. And Ashton is a difference maker. He's a home run hitter. And again, Saquon going for 2,000, that's helping Ashton's cause here. And I truly believe that one of those teams is going to pull the trigger in the first round, because you can get a solid player, but this guy's a difference maker.
I liked what I saw this year in pass protection too, which you always know that's a big thing when it comes to drafting running backs, and that could be a separating factor. And obviously we know the talent and what he was able to do this year. How about catching the football though? Because we didn't see as much of it this year compared to last year. How do you think he could do in that area?
Yeah, there is no question that in the passing game, whether it be in protection, he is so far ahead of most guys coming out of college. most of these guys that play in a spread system have never had to block anybody. And Ashton is an excellent in pass pro. He understands scanning the field, going side to side. He's been exposed to multiple protections and catching the ball in the screen game, whether it's in the check down game or whether it's using him vertically, he's going to do just fine. We didn't use him that way because that wasn't our best way to win games. And, we needed to give Ashton a breather sometimes in the passing game and take some of the load off him because he was taking so many hits in the running game. So I guess you're going to just have to trust me right now that he's going to do just fine in the pass game.
I know that you're a big believer in your quarterback from last year, Maddox Madsen. Now you've entered retirement again. Life for the Broncos without Ashton Jeanty. More is going to be asked of Maddox Madsen. Just what do you think his ceiling could be as a quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's up to the challenge. I really do. Boise State's going to have another really fine football team. They're loaded with talent. In this day and age with the transfer portal, there's lots of new faces, and spring ball starts next Monday. I'm anxious to get out there and get a look at some of those new faces. They've brought in a couple of new running backs. There's a couple of those young guys I mentioned were hurt last year, are back healthy, but the leader this year is going to be Maddox Madsen, and he's going to be up to the challenge. I think Boise State's going to be right in the mix again. They're going to be knocking on that door to get in that college football playoff again.
Are you definitely retired, or is there a chance that you maybe come back one day, Coach?
You never say never, but there's a fine line between being bored in retirement and working 60 hours a week as an offensive coordinator. And I need to find something in the middle. I haven't found that yet. And the weather's warming up out here. I'm looking forward to golf season and having something to spend my time. But I'm also looking forward to getting over to Boise State next week and watching some spring football.
Well, Coach, before we let you run, if this is it for you, how do you kind of look back? It's been a long run since 1983 when you got into this coaching business. How do you kind of look back at what you've been able to do for the last few decades?
Yeah, when you start off, I'm the son of a high school coach. That's all. I wanted to be like my dad, and I wanted to be a high school coach at my alma mater. I was able to do that, and then somewhere along the line, you're looking for more, and you start making those moves. I think about back in 1985, me and Andy Reid coaching at San Francisco State, Division II, non-scholarship, 3 full-time coaches, the head coach and 2 full-time assistants, and football's taken me and my family to a lot of cool places, a lot of great stadiums, met tons of coaches, been blessed to coach some of the best players in the world, meet a lot of great people. And, you don't get into it thinking it's going to go that way. But, I hope college football is a great game. The NFL is an awesome game as well. College football, I hope they can get this whole portal thing figured out. I don't like the way that's going for the future of college football. I love the college football playoff. I think that's one of the best moves they ever made. And hopefully the powers that be will make great decisions to keep the great game headed in the right direction.
What do you think needs to happen? I know that's a very difficult question, but we always hear coaches say there needs to be more structure. There needs to be there's a lot of, it being at Boise State, how many guys probably came. That's the craziest part to me, that you guys were able to keep Ashton Jeanty because people knew what he was going to be able to do this year. But what do you think really needs to happen with the system of college football?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, the NCAA just doesn't have any power right now. I mean, there needs to be some sort of set of rules that can be enforced. Maybe it takes some kind of a football commissioner. In the NFL, nobody's messing with the commissioner. When the commissioner who represents the owners, when they set the rules, they have the power through fining people to make those rules stick. And I think it's going to have to come to that at some point. But they have to have some way, because right now it's the wild, wild west. I mean, there basically are no rules. Players are, as it stands today, players are basically free agents every year. So you're seeing guys that are playing for their 3rd and 4th school. I'm all for players getting paid. That's great. But there's going to have to, at some point, be some way through a contractual agreement that both parties sign that binds that player for a certain amount of time, where guys can't just be transferring every 5 minutes.
Coach, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. If this is it, it's been a joy to watch you coach for all these years, and we appreciate you doing this.
All right, Zach, thanks for having me on.